many people weren't in the last session? A couple? Okay, fantastic. Just briefly, Andy Hemming, business coach. I work with the owners of small to medium-sized businesses and help them do this kind of stuff. Put a plan in place to actually get to where they're wanting to go. So hopefully all will become clear. Again, we normally do this over quite a period of time. I can't guarantee that you're going to walk out of here with a full plan in 45 minutes, but I'm just going to give you some of the tools to start thinking about this stuff, okay? Who's got a load of new learnings out of today? Brilliant. Then half of the purpose is achieved, I would suggest, but only half. Because you see, the truth is, seminars don't work. So sorry for that. You've got to go and do something with the stuff that you learnt in the seminar to make it work. Now, I know this because I've tested and measured with all the clients that I work with. The minute you disappear out of your seminar, what's going to happen tomorrow? All hell's going to break loose again in your business. Yeah? Back to putting out fires. Would that be fair? Does that sound familiar for most people? Yeah. What will happen then is you'll take all the great notes that you've made today and find the nearest convenient drawer, because then they'll be off your desk. And about 8 months from now, you'll pull them out again and go, I remember that. That was really good. I should have done something with that. I'm generalising a bit, but that's what tends to happen on the back of these. So really, congratulations for being here, because what I want to get you to do over the next 45 minutes is think about how you're going to take some of this stuff and actually do it, because that's how you're going to change the results in your business. Just a matter of interest. Who's actually got a plan in their business at the moment? A written plan? Okay, that's interesting. So 2 out of 30 odd, I guess. And is that a business plan, the sort that you give to the bank, or is it one of those sort of more useful operational plans that you check in with on a weekly basis? Operational. Somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So we've got one with an operational plan, congratulations. We've got one with the sort of businessy type plan. That, how often to check in with it? 2012?
Yeah, and it's kind of a bit of a work in process at the moment.
So, okay, good. Well, then we hope we do some more work in process to move it towards finished goods. And the rest of you not. So how disciplined are you about doing different stuff in your business on a weekly basis? Or do you just do the same thing and expect a different result? Because that's called the definition of insanity, by the way. You can see why my clients love me so much, can't you? So the first thing is, we've got to start at the top level here, because all the stuff that you've learned today is fantastic and all useful, no doubt. But we've got to start somewhere else. And it's this. Start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. Because it's no good just firing from the hip and doing the operational stuff if you don't know where you're going. How often do you just get in the car and go for a drive? And even if you did, it might be Sunday afternoon and you've still got a destination because it's back home again. Yeah? So you've got to have the destination clear. How clear are you on your destination? What does your business look like 5 years from now, 1 year from now? How clear are you on that right now? Who's clear? The person with the plan. Right. So if you're not clear, how the hell are you going to get there? How are you going to get there? And how will you know when you've got there? Because you don't know where it is. Does that make sense? So you've got to start with the end in mind. Now, will it be right? Probably not. But will it be somewhere? Yep. So what does your business look like 5 years from now? What are you turning over? What's your profit? What are you paying yourself? How many hours are you working? At least get clear on that stuff. If it's just the basics, it doesn't have to be any clearer than that. But when you write down, I'm going to be turning over, I don't know, whatever it is, 5 years from now, and it's on a piece of paper in front of you, what does it create? Fear. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a goal, isn't it? And when we write down a goal, then we have to start asking ourselves some different questions. But when we're just ticking along from day to day, we just do what we do. So it wouldn't be right of me to just help you get an operational plan. You've got to start with the end in mind. I want you to go away from today and write down, this is what my business looks like in 5 years. Maybe you can write it down now. I'm happy to give you 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be right. What would you like to do? Hands up for 2 minutes to write it down now. You're outnumbered, I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, you write it down, I'll keep talking. Please take it away and do this. You've got to get clear on the destination, guys. Start with the end in mind. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. Go read it. Brilliant book. First habit, be proactive. Second habit, start with the end in mind. Stephen Covey. Covey. Why? When you write down your goals, you set something called your reticular activating system. It's part of your brain. Our brain is hardwired to do 3 things: distort, delete, and generalize. Okay, we delete a hell of a lot of information. So when you write down a goal and you take it out of your head and you put it on a piece of paper, what it does is it gets you focused. And who's got evidence of we get what we focus on? Anybody got evidence of that? We get what we focus on all the time. Who's bought a new car in the last sort of 4 or 5 years? New to them, doesn't have to be brand new. You know, when you sort of picked it up and drove it off the forecourt, what was the sudden thing that you noticed? Lots of cars like yours. How much had you noticed them before you drove it off the forecourt? Not at all. Would that be fair? That's your reticular activating system at work. You set the compass. Oh, look, lots of cars like mine driving. I've never noticed those before. If you take the goal out of your head and write it on a piece of paper, you've got to get focused. Your subconscious will be focused on it, and it will start to find solutions to help you get there. Fact. Try it. What's the worst that could happen? Just a thought. So, who'd like the formula for life success? It's a secret. That's right. You have to pay with lots of clarity and lots of effort. Okay? Is that okay as a fair payment? Yeah. Right. We've got to start here. Have. We've got to start with what we want to have. That need not be material stuff. It can be how many hours you want to work. It can be what experiences you want to have. But this is your goals. Have. What do I want to have in my life? And then once we've got clear on that, we need to work back. What do we need to do? More importantly, who do we need to be? Let me give you an example of what I mean by this. I've got a client that's been with me about 5 years now. He's a structural engineer. When he started working with me, he said, I would like an engineering business that runs without me. Okay? That's his have. That I can sell. And retire. The words he used about himself were, I am an engineer. That's how he described himself. Now, I haven't got time to go into all the science behind this stuff, but it's fascinating. If you can Google it, go Google the identity iceberg. You can read about all this stuff. It's just fascinating. This is the B part. This is the bit below the waterline. If he's telling himself, I am an engineer, when he's sitting down doing drawings, how comfortable is he? Real comfortable. Real comfortable, because he's an engineer. That's what he's telling himself. I'm an engineer, I'm doing drawings. The world is a happy place, because I'm doing what I'm telling myself I am. Does that make sense? Can you have a business that works without you if I am an engineer? No. He has to be a business owner. He's got to be the owner of an engineering business. That's a different B. Does that make sense? We're talking about identity shift here. So writing your goals down is not just what you need to do differently, it's who you need to be differently. Who do you need to be to have the business you want? That's what we need to get real clear on. So when you set your goals, they give you this direction and focus, which is nice. Movement and momentum because you do it, but the person you become, that's the reason for setting a goal, to work out the person you need to become. Because if you already were that person, you'd be doing it now. And then it's not a goal. Then you're just lazy because you should be doing it now. There's a guy called Jim Rohn, and he says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And this is what he means, because every business rises to the level of incompetence of its owner. Mine too. So you will cap your own performance unless you get out of your own way. Who do you need to become to have the business you want to have? This isn't just about do. This is work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So when you write those goals, think about the person you need to become as well as what you need to do. Because I'm the owner of an engineering business is way different to I'm an engineer. Then his subconscious says, if he's sitting down in front of a drawing and he's telling himself, I'm the owner of an engineering business, his subconscious is going, that's not what the owner of an engineering business does. That's what an engineer does, and I'm not an engineer anymore. Now, the biggest challenge that most of us have as business owners, especially when we're sort of starting out, I suppose, and the team's not very big, and sometimes even when the team is big, guess what it's called? It's 3 letters. Even though we may not realise it, it starts with an E and ends in a go. Because we think we're the best person in our business to do this stuff. That's called ego. Park it. For those of you who was in the last session, I told you I'm a D. Sometimes there's just no point dancing around. Park your ego, because that's the only way you're going to get a great business. How arrogant to believe that you are actually the best person in your business to do everything. Really? Get over it. It's hard, I'm not saying that, but get over it. There are plenty of better people out there than you, and actually as a business owner, that's your job, to find them. Because then you get lots of people doing lots of different tasks, and they can do them properly instead of having to juggle 73 balls all at the same time. So when you write your goals down, because who's going to go away and write their goals down? Just looking for hands that aren't yet up. If you're not going to do it, you might as well leave now, by the way. Remember to get SMART. Has everybody come across SMART as an acronym? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. So I'm going to increase my turnover, not very smart. My turnover will be X by this date as measured by my management accounts. That's smart, because I could roll up in your business on that date and go, did you do it? Because if you don't get time-bound and if you don't get realistic about this stuff and measurable and all that kind of stuff, what happens? I guarantee you it will go this way. Right. Manana, we call it. Who's got a fair idea where they'd like their business to be 1 year from now? Quick show of hands. Who could have a good stab at it if I gave you 2 minutes? Just to write some stuff down. Can I answer for you? Everybody. Okay, so guess what? You got 2 minutes. I'm going to put some music on. You're going to write some goals down. Won't that be nice? Here you go. It's not very loud music, by the way, because it's a little box coming from there. And anyway. I'm sorry? Go for 1 year. 1 year from now. What's your business look like? fact, I'll give you the duration of this song. It's about 3.5 minutes. When you finish jotting your goals down, if you can just look up, that would be great, and then I'll know that we can move on. Good. Just give me a quick hand if you need a bit more time. Okay, brilliant. We'll move on. Is everybody now a little bit clearer than they were at the start of the session? Might you need to go away and clarify that a little bit more? But you've got something, which is better than you had 15 minutes ago. Right, based on what you've written down, have you now got to start asking yourself some questions about what you need to do differently in your business? Yes? Good. That's the point. You're not allowed to put this in the drawer. This should go on a wall, because that's your goals. You should be checking in with these real regularly. But then, hello?
Sorry, just on this.
Yeah.
Could you share this with your whole sales team?
Yeah. Why have a dog and bark yourself? If you want to use that terminology, which I wouldn't, but I just did. The point is, you see, if you don't communicate your goals, I mean, I wouldn't communicate, I want to earn this, but the rest of it's okay. At the end of the day, we're looking to leverage the resource within our business, aren't we? So we have to get clear on what the goals are for each part of our business. So absolutely communicate it. Okay? Does that answer your question? Cool. Right. The next part of this is a real experiment that happened. Action Coach, 22 years ago, it was set up in Australia by a guy called Brad Sugars. And what he did, he wanted to recruit a CEO for Australia. So he put an advert out in the paper, job description, CEO Action Coach Australia, and he advertised it at 50,000 Aussie dollars. And then he advertised the same job at 250,000 Aussie dollars. Same job. Now, how many people do you think applied for the $250,000 job compared to the 50,000? More or less? Most. Say again, sorry. Most people said less, and it was less. 2 people applied. A guy called Nick Clark, he got the job. Loads of people applied for the 50,000. 2 people applied for the 250,000. Why?
They mentally didn't think they were worth it, maybe.
Bingo. We call it that, self-sabotage. If you look back at the goals you wrote down, how much have you sabotaged yourself? No, I couldn't possibly. Couldn't possibly get that far. How do you know? How do you know? Why couldn't you do the 250 instead of the 50? When you write a goal down, it should be a stretch. It should cause questions. You should be going, oh my goodness, I'm not quite sure how. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That's how we get better. So what do you think the biggest thing is that causes us to self-sabotage? It's that. Isn't it? Fear. And what does fear stand for? Any ideas? I know you know. And those of you who've had an action coach at the back, do you know? Do you remember? No. God damn. It stands for this. False expectations appearing real. How often have you written a story about something, about the boogeyman in the closet, because you were scared about it, right up until the point when you just had to go do it, and then you did it and you went, well, that wasn't so bad, was it? That was okay. So how much have you colluded with yourself when you wrote those goals down? Self-sabotage because of fear. because you don't know how yet, or what if I were to fail? If you got 80% of the way there, would that be a failure? Not in my book. Not in my book. When we wrote down our 5-year goal, we put a full business plan together, Kevin and I, a couple of weeks ago. We've got a great business planning tool, and we worked it through. It's an online thing, and we worked it through to work out what our business was going to look like, okay? My 5-year turnover goal is £10 million. What did we both say? Bleep. That's so you don't have to on the video. Do you think that caused some fear? Yeah. Especially in him, because I only have to coach, he does the business development. It caused some fear. But how different do we have to be to have a £10 million business? What does my business look like as a £10 million business instead of the one I have now? Way different. What different questions do I have to ask myself to have that business? This is why it's got to be in front of you. Now, it would have been real easy to change that number. But we haven't. Because we want to help a lot of people. Feel the fear and do it anyway. There's a book called by a woman called Susan Jeffers. You don't need to read it because I've just told you what it's about. Feel the fear and do it anyway. She probably didn't need to write it, did she? Just get on with it. Just a thought. Saved herself some time. So this is the thing that when we buy an Action Coach franchise, it's 70 grand, okay? And I bought it for this slide, not for all the great business stuff. So I want you to take this away, because this is the thing that will ensure that you and your team commit to your plan, which I know you need to work on, but now you've got a goal for 1 year. Now, this is the line of life. You need to teach this to your team, by the way, if you have one. And it's a life principle, not a business principle. This is the line of life. Now, we can't play life on the line. We have to get off one side or the other. We can get off above the line, or we can get off below the line. This is below the line. Blame, excuses, and denial. And the easy way to remember below the line is if you're below the line, you might as well stay in bed. I've been doing this 8 years now, right? How many times do you think I heard I can't grow my business as a recession happening? Stacks. I even said it to myself a couple of times. My business didn't look very good 5-6 years ago, okay? But what I realised is I needed to work harder on myself than I do on my job, because actually I had clients at the time. I was keeping clients. I just wasn't getting enough clients. So it was real easy to blame the recession, real easy. But actually, were the people in my industry growing their business at the time? Yep. Were the people going bust? Yep. Nearly me, actually. Nearly me. But sitting out there bleating about the fact that there was a recession going on wasn't going to change anything. So my business changed when my philosophy changed. When I realised that actually I had to be better to have the business that I wanted. Okay? So I decided to get above the line instead. And that's this: ownership, accountability, responsibility. Actually, the reason that I didn't have the business that I wanted was because I didn't deserve it. I wasn't good enough. But I hadn't taken ownership of not being good enough because it was too easy to blame other stuff. I do a lot of training for the banks. I'm not going to say the bank. We had 40 people in the room the other day. And I always do a thing where I draw a little graph up and I go, right, do you know your goals for the year? And they go, yes. And I go, right, on a score of 0 to 10, where 0 is not a cat in hell's chance and 10's got it absolutely sewn up, give me a score of where you think you'll perform this year. What do you think the average in the room is? 6. They're a bit more optimistic than that. 6. So I go, right, something's obviously lowering your potential, because 10 is your potential and 6 is your predicted performance. We'll call that interference. I want you to write down the number one interference that's going to stop you hitting your goal. So they write it down, and then I teach them this slide, and I go back to your piece of paper, and if it's above the line, write an A next to it, and if it's below the line, write a B next to it. And how many A's do you think I get in the room? Less than 1. How much chance do you think they stand of hitting their goals this year? None. Get above the line and teach it to your team. Because if you're below the line, it's all out there. It's not about me. I couldn't possibly. There's all this stuff happening to me. It's all their fault. Nothing changes, ever. By writing your goals down, you're just taking some ownership. By not writing them down, actually, it's a bit of denial. Because you might have them in your head, but you let yourself off for them. You can make loads of excuses when they're not written down. Can't you? Haven't got time. Too busy. More important to speak with this client. Who's the most important client in your business? Say me. Because you're the only person that you can't replace. You can always get another client, can't you? So, getting as above the line as you possibly can. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. And what I want you to think about is this. Based on the goals that you've just written down, think about the number one thing, the number one challenge that is going to stop you from getting there. Okay? Because that's the thing you have to address first. This quarter. So write it down. And when you've written it down, if there are any sub-steps to that, write them down as well. So there might be 5 or 6 sub-steps. And then you have to get smart about it. Who does what by when? And if you're the only person in the business, it's just you, I'm afraid, but you just got to commit to a date. If you've got some other people, delegate, that's good. You're going to make their day tomorrow when you go back to your business. Once you've got the number one challenge and worked out what it is that you need to do to get over it, then think about the stuff that you've done today and how that will help you to move towards your goals. What's the number one thing that you've learnt today which is going to help you move towards the goal that you wrote down for 12 months from now? Because that's the thing that you need to work on first. And you have to get clear how you're going to implement that in your business and decide by when. Systemised. Systemised means written down on a piece of paper so you can then delegate it. Okay? Is everybody clear on what I need you to do? Any questions? Now I'm going to put some music on and I'm going to wander around the room. So trip me up if you want to get clear on any of this stuff or need any help. Happy to help, but really you've got to get this stuff written down and then you've got to go away and think about it to get clearer on it. But we need a who does what by when. But do it from these are my goals, this is the challenge I've got to overcome, and this is the thing that's going to help me get there. Because the rest of the stuff, keep it on your notes and do it after you've done that. But you've got to commit to something. So what's the thing that's going to help you get to your goals? Everybody, we're happy with what they need to do? Okay, I'm coming. Here's music. I'm on my way around. Messing about with your microphone, I'm sorry. Because I'm drawing and it sounds... Anyway. So, this is what I want you to do. Think about your hourly rate. So let's say... I don't know. Let's say you want to get 100 grand out of your business this year, okay? Let's say you work 50 weeks a year, 40 hours a week. So that's 2,000 hours. So 100 grand is £50 an hour. Yeah? That's this box, £50 an hour. Every hour you spend should be worth £50 or whatever your hourly rate is. That's the high skill, high interest. That's the job that only you, as the business owner, can do. This bottom box here, low skill, low interest, that's like lower value stuff. Yeah? Might even be minimum wage. Everybody understand how it works? And then in between is sort of the stuff. What you need to do is go and work out where your week goes. Now, I've got a client, when I first showed him this, I went, right, Matt, tell me. And he told me his goals, by the way, were home by 4:30 so he could see his kids, but increasing the business significantly. So I said, right, fantastic. Matt, this box up here, and I call it the orange box, but I haven't got any colours with me. The orange box, I just get people to think about orange box, being in the orange box. How much time do you spend in the orange box every week? And he went, it's about 25%. And I went, so you're telling me that you spend 25% of your time at your hourly rate, only you, as the business owner, the highest paid person in the business? And he went, yeah. And I went, okay, I'll take it. I don't believe it, but I'll take it, just for the purposes of this exercise. So 25% up here. And he went, and I said, what about this green box? We call it green box down here. What about the green box, low skill, low interest? What percentage of your time are you spending there? And he went, maybe about 25%. And I went, well, I'll take it, but I don't believe it. So we're saying we've got 25% here, 25% here, 50% in the middle somewhere. Ignore the 50% in the middle. So what we're saying is, if we took this green box stuff off your plate, you could get home at 4:30 and spend more time working on your business at your hourly rate, doing the stuff to develop the business. Would that be fair? Yes. Great. So let's get rid of the green box stuff. So what do you need to do? You need to go do a time audit. You need to write down what your week looks like. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, quite frankly, but it's worth it, believe me. You've got to do a time audit. You've got to write down what a week looks like. And then when you go through this, you've got to work out which are the orange box activities, the high value stuff, and then what's the low value activities. And guess what you've got to do with the low value activities? Get rid of them. Systemize them and get rid of them. Now, the thing is, this is where, if you're on your own or in a small team, this is where we call it perturbation, where people start to go, oh my goodness, that means I've got to potentially employ somebody, or all this fear creeps in. But guess what? If you're paying somebody 100 quid a week or 200 quid a week or whatever it is down here, how many hours do you have to be working up here to generate £200 of margin? You'll probably find it's not a lot. If you freed up the time down here, if you free up 10 hours down here, I bet you only have to spend a couple up here to pay for somebody full time. You need to think, this is the way you need to think about it. What's your average sale? What's the margin on an average sale? You know, how much do you make on an average sale? Because if it's, you know, let's say it's 150 or whatever, 200 quid. How many of those do you need to make in the time that you've freed up to pay for somebody to do all of your green box activity? 1. How long does it take you to get a sale if you're focused on it? Probably not that long. Does that make sense? So once you've got this green box stuff, you systemize it and then you hire someone. Now you might need to cash flow them for a month, 2 months. But what's the true cost of that compared to the opportunity cost of this? Because let's say your hourly rate's 50 and you're working 20 hours a week at 7. What's the opportunity cost of that? 20 times 43. Because here's 50 and that's 7. So you're giving up £43 worth of opportunity cost just because you can't get your head round employing somebody to do the 7 an hour. Does that make sense? And by the way, stop thinking about an employee as, oh my goodness, they're going to cost me 20 grand a year. No, they're not. They're 1,500 a month, 400 a week, 80 a day. How many sales do I have to make 80 quid? How many? How many? Who needs to make more than one sale to make 80 quid? There you go. Hire someone. Told you it was easy. Now, the only thing that will stop us is self-sabotage and fear and not being clear enough on where we want to go. So now you're clear, you've just written down your goal for a year. Can you get there doing what you're doing? Who can get there doing what they're doing already? Then you've got to change something. Does that help you with the time question? Who's enjoyed this afternoon's session? Who's got some work to do? Seriously, guys, time is a big constraint, I know that, but you've got to take the fear out of your head. You've got to go employ somebody to do the lower rate stuff that you're doing because of excuses and denial, and get above the line. Seriously. Because otherwise you'll just get stuck doing what you're doing. Same old cycle, definition of insanity, do the same thing, expect a different result. Can't happen. Can't happen. Start with your goal. Map it back to number one challenge, time. And it could be for a lot of you. Systemize it, delegate it, hire somebody. Get on with the stuff that's going to change your business and escalate your results. That's your 90-day plan. And if you only have one focus for 90 days, which is free up my time to do the important stuff, what a great plan. Just imagine what difference you'd have in your business 90 days from now if you'd taken all that green box stuff off your table so you could be working on the high value stuff. How much more could you be selling? How much more could you be making? So if that's your 90 days and it's one goal, great, do it. But you've got to write it down, you've got to commit to it, and you've got to do it. That shouldn't be there, I'm sorry. Move on. Well, that should be there. Got to take action. Your business doesn't grow by osmosis. You've got to become the person to have the business you want. Be times do equals have. Who's the person you need to be? What fears do you need to overcome? What action do you need to take? That's what needs to go on your plan. And you've got to write it down, because otherwise you won't do it. And you know that. If you'd like us to review your plan, my email details on the end here, send it to me. I'll have a look at it. Even if you only want the accountability of me reviewing your plan, send it to me. It's fine. I just want you to do it. You've got to take action. Questions? That's 3 we've done stunned silence on. Result, hat trick. Then please take some action. Thank you for your time. Really best of luck with your businesses. And if we can help, please fill in the feedback form. There's my details if you want any help. Thanks for your time.